Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Combo Breaker 99. Welcome to Combo Breaker 99 Talks. Hashtag CB99 Talks. This is my new discussion show / podcast, whatever you want to call it, where I'll be going in further on my views on certain topics in boxing and women's MMA. So what I'll do, I'll probably have specific episodes dedicated to both sports. Sometimes I'll do both on a single show, if we got like a flooded fight weekend. But right now, today, I want to focus on boxing. And specifically, on a lot of these episodes, I'm going to be targeting the welterweight division because I feel like right now we got a lot of talent in the welterweight division, but we're not really getting the fights that we need to happen. There's a lot of fights that we need to happen to answer questions, and we're not getting those fights, which leads to me to today's topic: Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman. It's fight week. We're a few days away from the fight, and like most fans right now, again, I feel like this is another one of those fights that we can add to the list that we didn't ask for. I got to say, I do appreciate the fact that Manny, he can still hang in the game. He can still keep his name in the elite level status and still challenge a former unified world champion like Keith Thurman. But to me, is this fight really going to answer questions? Because I got a few questions of my own that have been running through my head. But before we really get into these points, just make sure y'all subscribe. Hashtag CB99 Talks. Make sure I subscribe, and I'll keep on doing little episodes like this, man. But first point I want to speak on is really, man, like, what does this fight? What does the fight mean for this? What does this fight really mean for the division, man? Well, honestly, to me, this fight really doesn't mean a great deal for the welterweight division, man. Like I said, this one kind of falls into that category of Errol Spence, Mikey Garcia, Terrence Crawford versus Amir Khan, where the fight is just more entertainment and it really doesn't have a meaning. And by that, I mean, it doesn't answer those questions that I have, man. And for casual fans, when I say answer questions, I'm talking about the questions about who's going to be closer to be the next reigning guy at 147. Who really wants to be that unified champion or that undisputed champion? To me, it's not really one of those fights with the guys of today that are hashing it out, which to me, it isn't Manny's fault in this situation because he's going to stay around as long as he can. If guys don't try to take him out, or if guys don't really put themselves in that situation to kind of block him out and forget the money for 1 second and think that they can make money off of each other, you can't really blame him. It's them to blame. It's like when, for example, it's like when B-Hop was around, when he was in the light heavyweight division. And, he was still mixing it up with guys like Chad Dawson, Tavoris Cloud, Jean Pascal. Of course, a few of them guys mixed it up, but it was kind of hard for us to really gauge out of those guys who was the best or who could have been the best and had their reign in that era of light heavyweights because, nobody really stuck out because of the older fighter that was still there, willing to hang around and give him the business. And with them, it was a similar situation like it is now, but with Manny Pacquiao, it isn't really because he's like a crafty boxer or he's still got this like crafted style that's been keeping him around. He's still around because he's a superb athlete, but he's a star. Every fighter that wants this fight, they see this as a lotto check, just like when Floyd was around. Floyd, he was kind of a mix of both of them because he had the skill and the style to keep himself around, but it was the same reason. He was like a lotto check for these opponents. So a lot of these current champions, they'll continue to try to fight Manny and not each other because of the money. So while this goes on again, just like in the light heavyweight division of, a few years back, these guys aren't really going to be mixing it up. It's going to be the same way. If Manny just continues to stick around, he could be 0-4. And, guys like Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, they'll still say, oh, I still want that Manny fight, because it's like saying, oh, I need that one big check, to guarantee me, some extra money. So I feel like that's still going to be a situation as long as Manny's around. That's why I say with this fight with Keith Thurman, I don't really see Keith Thurman as saying like, oh, this is just about, retiring a legend or saying I faced a legend. It's about the money too. Let's be real. But Manny, he might be able to take Keith out of the picture too. That is a possibility because he can shake things up. I know a lot of people are kind of saying that Manny was the underdog, but to me, it's kind of a 50-50 fight right now. But for me, it's still like I know, what Manny has done and, how he has aged, but, he's still kind of a factor in this fight and could still shake things up. But for me right now, I really just want to see these other 4 champions mix it up because I want to see where they stand. So really, this fight, it really doesn't mean a great deal for me as a boxing fan, where I want to, put my champion, put these champions in place and really know where they're headed, and it kind of decides it kind of helps me decide what my next point to cover in this situation, just because this fight's all about money. So my next question is, who's more likely to retire if they lose? Well, for me, Manny Pacquiao, I know he's not the same Manny that he was like 8 years ago or 9 years ago or even 4 years ago right now. But I really feel like he has found a new flame in boxing. It's not the same flame as far as like recapturing glory or just, building the legacy, because he already has that. This one is that hunger for money. You know what I mean? And sometimes that can be a dangerous thing, because it can keep you around longer than you need to be. But, whenever you were with the promotion, or when you were with the promoter that kind of stiffed you for a lot of money that you were kind of screwed out of your big paydays, then your hunger for money is still going to be there. Your hunger for money is still going to be there. So I think Manny's found this new flame where he feels like, hey, he can't hang it up yet. He just can't hang it up because there's a few more fights he needs. And the thing I like about Manny is he's actually taking fights that do make sense and still kind of put him in that realm of saying he's willing to fight for his money. Manny's a fighter, and it would take a lot for him to, just take a bum fight or, just take like a sideshow fight for the same amount of money. At least he's still putting himself in that realm to say, this is kind of a win-win, because I'm fighting a meaningful fight against a champion, and I'm really earning this money. You know what I mean? So I really feel like Manny is still a guy that you still got to hold in high regard, even if he, doesn't choose to retire right now. But really, man, when you think about it, it would really take a lot for Manny to retire, because he's a guy that came from nothing, the dirty bottom, man. He came from nothing, and he's fought for less. And, and now that he's 40 years old, he's fighting much more in like a stable condition. He's fighting in, not in the same, dirty gyms like he used to. He's fighting, he's training in with Freddie Roach and, for years now. So it's never really been like hard work to him. It's just kind of been embedded in him, where he feels like, this is something I got to do. I got to, take pride in this. This is what I am. I'm a fighter. So, I have to really, really put my 100% into this, even at 40 years old, and, to me, that's really dangerous in a fighter. That's something that Keith Thurman, he kind of has to look at. That's something he has to still see, that, hey, Manny is still capable at 40 years old, and he still trains with that same hunger and ambition, so that's something dangerous for Keith to look at, but it's still dangerous for a fighter like Manny to think like that, because possibly we don't know. Manny could be ignoring the signs of Father Time right now. You know what I mean? He could really be ignoring something that we don't see, that's telling him that it's time to quit. Yeah, we see him training. We see him training hard and, doing this, doing that, running every day, playing basketball 4 hours like he says, but we don't know. There could be little signs there that he's probably just not looking at or just ignoring. And, they could be telling him that it might be time to retire. So that could be kind of dangerous for a fighter like him. I think, for him having such pride, that's kind of hard for him to actually, kind of look at that situation like that. So with that being said, I still feel like even if Manny was to lose this fight, I still wouldn't see him retiring, that because of, a mixture of pride and money, and the type of fighter he is. But somebody like Keith Thurman, on the other hand, man, feel a little different. I actually feel like Keith, he would probably ponder retirement a little bit harder than Manny would. He would really ponder retirement harder than Manny would. Then let's say he would ponder retirement harder than Manny did after the Marquez loss. Like, if Keith lost this fight in a very devastating fashion, I feel like he would retire before Manny would, because like Manny came back after that Juan Manuel Marquez fight. He took a little time off, but he still came back. Like, I didn't even feel in my heart that Manny was going to retire after that fight. Just the type of guy that he is and the type of fighter he was. I knew that Manny would come back, but that's how uncertain I feel for Keith. Even now, I just don't see him as the same fighter he was before. I don't see those same actions. I hear the talk, but Keith, he's always been a good talker. He's always been a good talker, and he could be a commentator in boxing if he wanted to. If he wanted to retire today, he could be a commentator or a trainer or something, because that's how educated he is in the sport, in the mind. But as far as like putting the physical and the mind together and the heart, I don't know if he still has that. He's going to have to prove me wrong on Saturday night or beyond that. You know what I mean? And by beyond that, which fights I'm talking about. So going back and looking at Keith, man, it's really uncertain, because after a fight with Jose Zito Lopez, I'm just wondering why after a rough fight like that, he would want to get back in the ring with a dangerous legend, somebody that could expose his skill or really hurt him, but he's willing to come back for it just for that reward, so it kind of makes me say, oh, he's probably doing this for the money, just in case if he was to lose, he could say, oh, I got this big payday, I can go ahead and leave, man. I just don't feel it no more. That's the kind of situation I feel, because if he was to take the Spence fight this year, the risk would be there for him, but the reward and the Manny numbers wouldn't be. So, I feel like in this situation, Keith, he had to look at the fight that would bring him a win, even in a loss, just in case he was to get re-injured or KO'd in this fight and he lost that flame, then he could ride off in the sunset. I just feel like this is a different time now, where a lot of fighters, they're not cut from that Manny or Floyd cloth, where, they're thinking more of, a lot of these guys, they're already thinking of their future a little bit more, which is smart, but they're kind of cutting out the hard work. They want that big reward now. They don't really, put in that hard work like Floyd did, and then they get that reward. They'll kind of set themselves up to retire, especially in this sport. You just can't, cut and dry, cut all of that out and then think you can retire off a couple of legend fights. You actually have to still put the work in, because it still is the fight game. You know what I mean? So you just can't go in there, get a couple big paydays, and then set yourself up for an early exit. Because on the real, Keith, after looking at his, his last performance, and what could happen in this fight to him if Manny, comes in there with that on that 100%. I feel like, Keith could actually leave the game after this fight, and no matter how old Manny gets, I feel like Manny, he'll stay around until, which is dangerous, until he really faces that hard loss, kind of like B-Hop did, that's how deep the heart is with Manny. But as far as Keith, though, I feel like he would probably retire. I have to lean with Keith, in that situation. He would retire first, man. But yeah, man, y'all let me know what y'all think about that. But next point I want to talk about is Manny of today, is it still enough to beat a fighter like Keith Thurman? Well, first off, I will say Keith Thurman, he isn't the same fighter that he was 2 years ago. He's already said that himself. But, is he still a little more than what Manny is today? That's kind of a question too. But for me, Keith Thurman, he's been doing these interviews where he talks about Manny and how Manny's being, how Manny being shorter, being older, and how he misses a lot now, how he's not really a great technician, or how he's not a technician. It's something he can capitalize on. Manny only has 70 fights. Well, I had 100 fights in the amateurs. I'm more of a boxer. He didn't box till he was 14. I was 9 when I boxed. He talks pretty confident, man. He makes it all sound like it's so easy. And that kind of makes you wonder why. Well, why didn't this experienced guy go ahead and take out these young cats like Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford? Because you make it sound like you're way better than, you're way ahead of even somebody like Manny Pacquiao. You really got to look at, though, Manny Pacquiao has a lot of ring experience on the big level. You don't have that. It's your first pay-per-view, so you got to kind of look at that. Because the thing is, it's good to be confident, but you have to realize that Manny has been where you haven't been. Manny's been where you've been and beyond. Manny's already been in this situation before, and he's been many other places. So he has to understand that fighters like him, Manny Pacquiao, guys like, let's go all the way back, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Bernard Hopkins, Floyd Mayweather, all these fighters like them, Ali, they've been in these high, intense pressure fights, all of their lives now. And they all have that one gear that Keith Thurman doesn't possess. It's that one level of experience and age that you really can't teach. It's something that you have to go in there and learn and experience. And Manny, he's already learned and experienced that. It's something he can't really teach or write a book on. It's just something that is already in his heart. It's something that keeps him in these realms. And Keith, he can't ignore that. He has to know about that gear that I'm talking about. It's that gear that, shit, I don't even know what I'm talking about sometimes with it. It's just something you see. So Keith, he has to understand, like, what you see in Manny's mistakes from the outside is easy to pick apart or critique from the ringside, or like trolls do from the couch. They're out there, oh yeah, man, look, Manny, he leaps in and out. Oh man, they just need to time a good right hand. Oh man, you just time that. Oh, look, hands down, you catch it. Everybody on the couch says that. Everybody from ringside says that. But you put any of these trolls, or you put any little commentator that can pick him apart, you put them in there, they get drummed up for 12 rounds, or they get put on their ass. That's how easy it is. Because shit, look, it took Juan Manuel Marquez 4 fights to actually get that right hand down and to land it perfect. You know what? He really had to go through 4 rounds of hell, four fights of hell with Manny Pacquiao. He was still getting drummed up in that fourth fight until he caught Manny. Shit, he had a broken nose in that fight. So you got to really think about that, man. You got to really say, hey, this is just one of these fights where I actually have to go in there and experience first. I just can't say Manny has these mistakes. He's not this great technician, because what you see is Manny is a superb athlete. It still takes some technique to do that, because it's easier said than done, from the outside. It's way easier said than done, because Manny, to me, I feel like he has a lot more tools than people give him credit for. And the only way to really beat Manny, has been shown, is it takes a genius fighter to have his own game plan and better polished skills. I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather, and even Juan Manuel Marquez, who had to learn on the job to beat somebody like Manny decisively. And and I don't mean pretty, but decisively. And I really don't know right now if Keith's skills are tested enough to set up counters like that, or be that accurate like Marquez was. Because look, again, it took Marquez 4 fights to get that right hand down. As for somebody like Floyd, hey, the guy's a genius. His ring IQ is higher than everybody, so he knew right away what I'm going to do. So for Keith, is he willing to commit like these guys did, and he's never fought on that level before? I don't know. I really don't know, because Manny still has that ability to control the fight if he wants, from the outside and the inside, and make guys wait on him. He can make guys anticipate, and while they are, he's pot shotting you to death, or he's just hitting you with that left hand, scoring or shoe shining with his aggression and ring generalship. And by then, you're in the 10th, 11th round looking lumped up, or you're just confused by the speed because you forgot to throw, But that's a hell of a job, man. And I think Manny of old, he's not a pushover, man. I mean, from what I've seen from Keith Thurman, if he is what he is, he could definitely beat Manny if he doesn't get too confident. If he doesn't take that all this outside talk into the ring with him. He has to approach it as the fighter of Keith Thurman. So yeah, man, it's going to be harder. It's going to be hard to even beat a Manny of old for a young Keith Thurman. Last point to speak on, is Keith Thurman really on his get back? Well, let's see, man. Kind of goes back to that retirement question. Not just basing this off of his Jose Zito Lopez performance, but kind of peeping Keith's talk, even before the fight, while he was injured, and how it sounded like he, was kind of talking of boxing and his manners. I haven't really heard that same energy in him about reclaiming that status that he once held. I know he states that, well, first off, shout out to the Boxing Voice, shout out to Ness, because Ness did ask him that question, like a lot of fans, why he doesn't have that same energy when we talk about Errol Spence, why he doesn't really have that same "you better not duck me, son" energy, why he doesn't have all of that, why he's not as vocal. And Keith Thurman, just stated that, he's an older, mature fighter. Well, for me, I still see Keith Thurman as the young guy. I still see him as a young, hungry lion who still needs to do a lot. He still has to prove himself. We all do know that energy is different when it comes to Errol Spence, but as a vocal fighter like Keith, I really don't see that same hunger myself. Even if he is, saying that he's older, he should still have that mentality in him that, hey, he still has to dominate the welterweight division, because he earned the #1 spot, but he didn't really keep it. He beat Sean Porter and Danny Garcia, but there was still a lot of work to do in the division to prove that you're that guy. Because after 2 years off, you kind of have to reclaim that status, because a lot of people don't feel that you still have it now, because Errol Spence, he was the next guy that came along. And now that Errol Spence is in the game, you're telling everybody that, oh, the fight will happen when it happens. You kind of talk around the question, or you say wait till 2020 or 2021, or you say Bud Crawford, he's not a legit welterweight. So I don't know if that's really just a mental game he's trying to play on the other fighters, but it doesn't make us feel like he has the same fire to take over the division. Even in his get back year, to me, it's been kind of shaky, because this fight against Lopez didn't really say to us that, oh man, like, he's coming through to make a statement. Granted, he did come away with the win, and he had survival skills to win the fight and enough tools to beat Lopez. But it just seems like securing a Manny fight right away after a shaky return is more important because of the payday. Because if your last performance looked like that, to me, I still say, damn, why would I jump in there with a legend if I'm really not convinced that I'm not fully back? You know what I mean? Like, it seems like another tune-up probably would have been better, but Manny Pacquiao, they put that offer out there because they also know that Manny's older, and they also know that this is a safer fight for Manny. So everybody's kind of looking at it in a safety first way when you really look at it. So somebody like Keith Thurman, I can't really say he is on his get back, like I want to believe, because yeah, he's thinking of safety first fights too, financially safe fights, and ass whooping safe fights. The Pac fight to me is still dangerous, but he knows of that reward to it. So the money's nicer. So just in case he doesn't want to come back, you got to look at it like that. So for me, I really feel like this year is not going to answer questions for the welterweight division, but it is going to answer some questions about Keith Thurman's get back, which is what he needs to really find out about himself. Does he still want to fight, especially after this one with Manny Pacquiao? So yeah, man, I really just want to, like I said, just kind of want to look at this fight as it comes along, because I still feel like it's I just wanted to get my thoughts on this fight, because yes, just another one of those entertainment element fights, but I'm curious as to what Keith Thurman has against a legend like Manny Pacquiao, and I want to see if Manny Pacquiao, can bring something better than he did against Adrian Broner into this fight, and we'll see if Keith Thurman really could get in the head of Manny Pacquiao in this situation. So yeah, man, that's all I got on this one, guys. Just kind of wanted to do a little discussion video here with some different angles you don't really talk about or hear about too much. But yeah, man, like I said, again, this fight, it's just entertainment, and I really still feel like this isn't a fight that's going to answer questions about who's the #1 welterweight. But you can guys let me know in the comment section it is for you. It is fight week, like I said, so probably next episode I'll do more of a technical breakdown of this fight, and do my fight math for y'all and see what my prediction is, because right now it's 50-50, but by my fight prediction video, I will have a pick for y'all. So just make sure y'all subscribe, Combo Breaker 99. Follow me on Instagram at Combo Breaker 99, at All Boxing Everything, and subscribe to the Jab Podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And I'll put a link in the description box. #CB99 Talks. And I will see you guys later. Peace.